Good morning. Away from him. You should stay away.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. The committee meeting is called to order and Regent call the roll for it.
Regent Bale,
Present.
Regent Roddy,
Present.
Secretary Dennison, present. Regent Hammonds,
Present.
Regent Helm,
Here.
Chair Milliken, no. Regent Milliken,
Here.
Regent Nichols,
Here.
Regent Spiller,
Here.
Vice Chair Thomas, Chair West,
Present.
Regent Robinson.
Here.
We have 100% available.
Very good. Thank you. Good to see everyone here and good to see you, CJ.
Thank you.
Morning. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone about we haven't had a committee meeting in a while, that if you can only make motions and vote if you are on the committee. So that's a little tricky. Everybody of that. And we will start with academic affairs, Regent Health.
That's Provost coming, please.
First item is approval of program suspension of minor Bachelor of Science in molecular biology.
Yeah, Dave, would you like to talk about that?
Sure. It's actually a major, a Bachelor of Science program, and it's had a low enrollment. It hasn't grown over a few years. Biology department, which is now the Biological Sciences Department, has rolled it now into their 5-2-5 major. So instead of being a standalone major and degree program, it'll be one of the concentrations within the biology degree program. The thought about this is that it gives a common core to all of the biology concentrations, making it easier, for example, for someone who enters the general biology program to move into the molecular biotechnology concentration without quite as much resistance as they would have had in a separate degree program. There is a teach out for anyone who wants to stay in the current major, and most students who would have chosen this major will now be in the 5-2-5 major in the concentration molecular biotechnology.
Any questions? Comment?
We should not think molecular biology is not important.
It's very important. We're giving it a better chance.
Have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item is approval of merit appointments.
Yeah, the first emeritus faculty is Dr. Molly Kirby, who worked with me for the first 4 years here. If you don't know Molly, or if you do know Molly, you know that she's been on this campus since the start in a large number of cases. Has really been here a significant period of time. Molly was a student here and then went away and came back and has been here ever since. She has done an amazing job here. She did lots of interdisciplinary teaching. She did impactful administrative leadership, and she's especially known for her work in, I'm going to say it, but hopefully I'm not fired, diversity, equity, and inclusion. At that point, her contributions range from curriculum development and student mentorship to institutional assessment and strategic engagement. She has a huge commitment to here, and she continues to be a part of this community in that she taught honors classes for us last semester. So she's still on campus. She's just doing other things along with being on campus, and well-deserved of being an emeritus faculty. The second, we're going to do them all at one time, is Stacy Wilson, who was here 29 years in the Ogden College of Science and Engineering. She played a significant role bringing engineering to WKU and helping in the transition from the College of Science and Technology to the College of Science and Engineering. She's well organized, even-tempered, and fair-minded, which made her the perfect person to run the school of Cs that we have. She was the director for a series of 5 years, and she served the university with distinction. And without her, I don't think C's would have ever been what it is now, which is a place to be for engineering and a place to be for computer science and a place to be really, if you look now, construction. So she is at the heart of that and why we are where we are today. And then the last is Margaret Gripshauer. Dr. Peggy Gripshauer served WKU for distinction for 15 years from 2009 to 24. As a faculty member, she also served as program coordinator twice and associate department chair for EEAS. She was well regarded as an outstanding teacher and mentor and demonstrated prowess in human geography research. In addition, she was cornerstone in that department to the changes that occurred that we now see this major going from a small group of students to changing a curriculum and modernizing a curriculum and thinking about what the future holds to a large number of students on campus now, including a meteorology program that's probably the best in the country. So she was right at the heart of all those changes and is well deserved also.
Do the candidates here like to speak or is
That's next time, I think.
entertain a motion? Second? Second. All in favor?
And the candidates will be here the next time, for sure.
Prior to the faculty presentation, does any member of the Academic Affairs Committee have any questions or comments?
So we, as having some discussions, Regent Bale and I think he was talking with you a little bit earlier,
Sure.
and like to have some of your takes, some of the updates, progress on artificial intelligence, what we're doing, what we're
Sure.
seeing, what we should be concerned about as a board.
Wow. I mean, I think everybody's concerned about it as we speak, right? It's changed higher education as we know it. Students can use it for all kinds of things. And what we really hope is that we're continuing to grow as an institution in a number of ways. One would be setting guidelines. If you go out on our AI site, you'll see that there's guidelines for how to use it properly for both faculty and students. We've spent a lot of time in committees trying to make or be able to do that, to understand how you would do that. The other thing that you will see is that we have done a huge number of what we would call professional development for faculty members. There have been, I think, alone in this semester, somewhere around 12 professional development opportunities to learn how to incorporate AI into your classroom, to how to use it in a way that's a positive, so that students learn how to use it because they need to know how to use it in the future, but don't use it to just write everything for them and those types of things. And how to change your assignments so that the assignment can maybe use AI to get a outline, but you can't do it to do everything. So there's lots of that going on this campus. There's a committee on campus that is constantly discussing it. We're working in that regard. I would claim that we're not behind anybody in this state at this point. As I was at a meeting the other day, and I can hand out next time, I didn't know that was one of the questions, but we have a list of what we've done over the last 2 years or 2.5 years that shows you exactly the approach we have taken. And it's really been led by CITL, who is our Center for Teaching and Learning, where it has the greatest impact as we speak. And I think we've done a pretty good job. Hard to mandate. I think, we're trying to convince faculty, and I haven't won all of those, but we've won some, that you're not going to stop it. Telling students not to use it is not going to stop students from using it. So we really have to take a look at how we do things differently in the classroom and how we change assignments and how we do that to make sure that students get what they need, which is how to write and that type of stuff, but also figure out how to use it to help them be better.
We're just having a conversation the other day with the student government leadership. I was, and this was a topic of that conversation. And the way I think about AI is that it is just like the World Wide Web was, as it was called, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. That this is a tool, and we have to equip our young people to be able to use that tool in whatever context they're working. one of the examples used in that discussion was, there is a class or department that is suggesting that students come and write their essays in real time so that they can't use AI in a blue book with a pencil. Being a Luddite about this is not the way in which the institution is going to make progress. We have to embrace this. It is here already. It is going to be a disruptor, not just for higher education, but for every industry. And we need to think about how in all of our curricula it's used. And so I think it's an exciting time. You think about what the internet did for the economy, for how we teach, for how we learn, and this is going to be even more disruptive, but create even more opportunities to it.
So I reflected a little bit about in the last week of why is it we have a student regent, a faculty regent, a staff regent on the board. And, you know, part of that is to bring to the board the perspective of what we're seeing. So we're asking Rush what he's seeing. We just give the board a little bit of a perspective from a faculty and what it is. It's dramatically changed in 2 years. 2 years ago when it first came out, you know, some students were aware of it and they're doing it. Now, as I walk around the classroom, every student has it open. Even if it's just Google, it's AI is built into that. As I walk through the lobby through Chandler Hall, and we have students all over the place there, it's not surprising. If 2 years ago in Grice Hall, you would see them Netflix open. They were watching streaming services and things. And the student regent is laughing at that because he might have been one of those training our IT bandwidth on that. Now you see ChatGPT open on the computers as they're doing this. And I, no exaggeration, witnessed one person taking a screenshot of their text messages with their girlfriend and putting it in there and asking how to respond to the text messages. To say it's there, it is 100% there. Every single thing about the classrooms is having to change. And it's also changing the student mentality coming into the classrooms. And I think that's really where I'm struggling this semester. It's engendering, I don't want to use the word, have a better word, laziness. That they feel like I have this tool that I'm going to be able to use, so I don't have to prepare as much, and it having to push them. So just as a test, just to, you know, feedback, I asked ChatGPT if I was to completely change my class. I'm not anti-AI. We use it all the time. I show them how it's wrong. What would it take to make my class to have it integrated, and tell me how much time it would take? It was 25 hours per class. Of the amount of extra work that I would have to do to integrate it, have it in there in the assignments, change the objectives, change the syllabus and everything else. Well, okay, most of our faculty teach 4 classes. So that's 100 hours of work. And that's the first semester. And then the second semester will be 60 hours of additional work that's needed because, as you said, it's disruptive. And so I would ask from a faculty perspective, if the board, you know, I think we all believe in academic integrity. We want them to learn more than just the AI is there. We want them to still learn the basics of things. We have to make sure that we are still adhering to the core mission of trying to get the students to learn some of the basic stuff. And we've got to support faculty in doing that because this is, it's incredibly pervasive. And I'm just wondering about the student, what you're seeing on this from your perspective as a triple major.
Yeah, so I think we would put ourselves in a bad position if we went from the perspective of we need one, university-wide policy for implementation, because we're all not naive enough to say that, the way that AI is used in engineering will be different than it's used in English, will be different than it's used in philosophy. So I don't think that necessarily that is the way to go. I do think giving professors and departments agency in that decision, I think that is the way to go, and I think that's what we've seen on other universities. But a question for you, Provost. You said that the policy was implemented a couple years ago. When was the last time that was looked at again and kind of reevaluated as AI has changed? Because you said it has changed the way that colleges run. And
Sure.
I think the word we should be using is it's changing, because it is changing day to day. As someone that's been in college from when it wasn't introduced to now, I can say as someone that uses it, it has changed so much.
I think the people who are working on a committee, and I can get the list if you would like, are at the cutting edge of that. So they're constantly having those discussions about how do we change the guideline? What kind of things should we be doing different? all the time. Cause you hit it on the head, it's ever evolving as we speak, right? And it will continue to evolve. The trick is though, is that if you want to be able to ultimately get students the experience they need in that, because if you look at jobs now, that's in job offers and they are looking for people who can run AI, but they also are looking for people who can write and do the other things. So we have to find out how to do that within the classroom. And even if it takes 25 hours and it takes you 4 years to change, we have to change. We can't put our head in the sand and say, well, we're just not going to do it because putting our students at a disadvantage. So we have to figure out how to do that as we move forward and figure out how to do that in a way that allows our students to learn parts that gets us to where we want to be. And that's what I think the committee has been trying to do. And actually, they've been out talking to people, trying to convince them that please don't just say you can't use it. Figure out ways that allow you to use it in a system that allows the students to still have to write, think, and be creative.
I was actually talking to Dr. Sales just the other day, and I was asking her like her perspective on AI, how she would use it. And she didn't say this, and I've heard from other people, but I think people are seeking guidance. And she said something right along with that. She said, you know, if I was teaching in a class now, I would ask the students how they're using it, and I would ask them to teach me. And I think that's a really wise thing to do. I think faculty and students are both just looking for guidance on how to use AI, how to learn with it, how to use it ethically. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speak for the board, but I think we would all like guidance on it.
Well, and I think there is guidance out there, right? The website has guidance. I think the other part of that is there are development, right? We've taught 12 development different workshops over this last semester, and we continue to do that. We offer huge amounts of opportunities to go see how other people are using it. We have actually, I think, 5 people who are AI fellows who are out there right now doing things that then go out and do what would be workshops, all of those kinds of things. We're doing as much as we can at this point. We just have to get people to realize that you got to go do it, right? Because this is going to be here. The whole world changed in a split second, right? AI has been around forever. It just wasn't available to anybody, right? And when it became available to everybody, the whole world changed in a day. And it's going to continue to change.
I think one of the ways in which we have to be cautious is that there is a great deal of utility in being able to sit and look at a blank page and then write. Yes. We can't lose that capacity. We have to continue to make sure students have that. The other thing is that AI as a tool, as good as it is, it's not that good. It doesn't have expertise. And you know, if I were a faculty member, I would not ask it to write a syllabus for me and then use that syllabus, because the source material it picks, the citations it uses, I actually asked it to do this for me, and it's garbage, right? And so I think we have to be cautious in also guiding both students and faculty that there are limits to its utility today, make it better in the future. But look, here's a question. Answer this question. And have ChatGPT answer this question. Compare and contrast your answer with ChatGPT's. What is right, what is wrong, and what's good about it. And that kind of exercise helps students understand you can't just plug in the question and copy and paste the answer, because who knows what the answer is. And so I think that there's lots of opportunity with this. Cautiousness is good, but it is here. It's never going away. And to Shane's point, there are faculty, I don't know who on this campus is doing it, but I know there are faculty that will now take student assignments, put them in a ChatGPT, ask it to evaluate the assignment. There's your feedback.
Well, this is a topic of our time, certainly education at all levels, and you're talking about the human brain and trying to understand it. So maintaining some healthy skepticism, I think, is appropriate in trying to have a discussion between reasoning, which AI is just connecting neurons, versus thinking and understanding. And certainly as educators, we need to hopefully have those discussions how important thinking is and understanding versus just connecting some neurons. AI still doesn't have the hippocampus working where context and nuance come into play, so
That's all the new data, right?
irrational exuberance is wrong, but denying that it's not gonna be here with us is wrong too, so I think we can have lots of interesting discussion, the same we should.
One, I think it's the discussion going on across the country, right? I mean, if you look at the groups that started the quickest, right? The universities, the University of Michigan, Ohio State, some of those, they're still struggling, right, with the same questions. I think everybody's struggling with the same questions. That it's not an easy topic to find answers to, right? And it's not and as you said, all those classes are completely different, right? So figuring out how to utilize them within the different classes takes time, takes effort, takes nuance in a large number of ways to do that. And that's what's really out there. And, you know, they thought they'd have a solved problem. Michigan was way out ahead, and now they're sitting in with some guidelines that are pretty close to everybody else who's caught up to them in the same kinds of things, because there's not much. This is where you can be to give the freedom that you have to give because of academic freedom and the things that occur in the classroom.
We should all hope that the Nobel Prize for biochemistry doesn't go to AI. someday.
Well, we're at a transition point that's incredibly challenging right now, which goes to the presidential speaker series, the slow aging she talked about,
Yeah.
and maturity of students, and the death of expertise. I know a little bit you like to talk, but there's students where we haven't trained them to question what they see. So there is a lot of cut and paste, and you have to have a little bit of knowledge about the subject to realize if what it gave you is wrong. And you got to get to that through some low level classes. So I just, from my perspective and interacting with the rest of campus, you know, it'd be very easy for faculty members right now to say that is a lot of work. I'm being overwhelmed with a tsunami of chat GPT answers. I'm not sure how to stop it. Retention's important, so I just surrender. Everybody gets an A and move on, especially with online classes where it's tremendously difficult to police. So I think, as Rush said, Regent Robinson, we're looking for people looking for guidance and help to still adhere to what we care about in terms of true learning and academic integrity, because it is a transition point to where it gets a little more mature as a technology.
Well, I would start by saying go to a large number of those workshops, because I think those workshops are run by people who have figured out how to do it, and how to do it within that process that has thinking associated with it, not just neurons firing at that point. I would also say that I go out and look at the website that we have, and I would go out and look at the ones in Michigan, Ohio State, those kinds of places that will give you a different. How would you do that? I would talk to people across campus. I think it'd be a great discussion for faculty sitting in the comments to say, how are you using it, so that you get a different perspective from everyone who's doing that. I think this is an opportunity for people to continue to add on, and that committee I know would be ecstatic to hear more from people who think they know a way or how to move forward, or how to do what I would really hope is to teach people how to write and how to think, and all of those kinds of things that I think are important, and be creative as you walk out the door here.
Well, I'm reminded of when YouTube and Google really came of age, and folks said, well, why do we have universities anymore? It's all right there. Because we organize ourselves in such a way that we evolve and adapt and integrate whatever is new into what we've always done. And I think that's the challenge ahead for us as an institution. There's great efficiency in it. John, Mark, and I were having a conversation around how you can use this technology to size an image for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and do it like that, where you used to have to actually do it yourself. So there are also some efficiencies built in for all of campus, not just faculty and students.
I think our presidential series speaker touched a little on it when talking about a lot of our thinking occurs when we're unconscious during sleep, particularly REM sleep. And trying to put all that together and understand it is a lot of fun.
We'll move on now to the faculty presentation.
It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Gretchen Macy. Gretchen is a professor in the Department of Public Health. She also serves as the faculty fellow for wellness in the College of Health and Human Services and as the co-director of the Center for Environmental and Workplace Health. Dr. Macy's research interests include workplace health promotion, concepts of total work health, and working well-being. She has been faculty member at WKU since 2012. And with that, she will be talking about strengthening firefighter well-being, a total worker health approach in rural Kentucky.
I appreciate President Caboni and board for letting me talk about the research that we're doing with the Center. So specific to strengthening firefighter health and well-being, a lot of the work that we've been doing recently has been funded through the Transdisciplinary Opportunity Project Grant funded through the Provost Office. So we appreciate the funding and the opportunity. So this is.
That's what you get for letting me do it.
This is our research team. It's an interdisciplinary team across the department. So just a little bit of context for firefighter health. Due to the occupational strains and hazards, firefighters are at increased risk of exposure to certain toxins, many of which are carcinogenic. Firefighters also have additional physical strain due to the demands of their job, as well as the fact that most of them operate through shift work and experience high levels of trauma. All of these hazards lead to poor health outcomes. So they're at increased risk of musculoskeletal injury. They're also at increased risk of certain types of diseases like specific forms of cancer and cardiovascular disease and mental health concerns. Because of the trauma that they face, they have increased risk for mental health concerns. Suicide rates are higher among firefighters than the general population. All of this leads to reduced lifespans among firefighters. We also know that in Kentucky, there are rural challenges. Most of the firefighters are operating at stations that are in rural areas, and rural challenges associated with the fire service are limited access to healthcare, especially specialists in mental health, and the fact that small volunteer stations have reduced resources. Additionally, there is stigma both in the fire service and in rural communities about help seeking or mental health concerns. So all of these frame the context for firefighter health. A little bit about the fire service in Kentucky. There are 466 departments that are registered in Kentucky. In those departments, there are roughly 20,700 firefighters. Of these firefighters, 17,000 are volunteers. So overwhelmingly, the fire service in Kentucky is made up of volunteer firefighters that are practicing in other professions and working multiple jobs. Over the last decade, we've been working with the fire service in Kentucky, primarily the Green River Fire Association. So we have been working with them since 2015, 2016. And all of the information that we have learned through the firefighters has helped inform a total firefighter health model. This model is based on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the National Institutes for Occupational Safety and Health total worker health model. Total worker health basically says that policies, programs, and practices should inform health promotion and health protection, because we know that healthier workers are going to be safer workers, and all that leads to the comprehensive health of the worker. So based on our information and our work with firefighters, we adapted this model to a total firefighter health model. Based on that information, we developed 4 primary pillars to address the comprehensive health of the firefighter. The first is the physical health, looking at injury prevention, cardiovascular and cancer risk, fatigue, and heat stress. The second pillar is psychological and behavioral health, looking at peer support programs, mental health, and stress. The fourth pillar is organizational support, safety culture, practices and procedures, and integration of well-being into these policies. And social and family well-being are the 4 pillars. In the interest of time, I'm just going to quickly hit on a few of the studies that we have conducted in each of the pillars. So the first is the physical health pillar. One of the first studies that we actually conducted was a community-based participatory research study. Because we know as researchers, we are not firefighters. We don't know what it's like to be a firefighter. We knew that it was extremely important to have firefighters on the research team. So from the very beginning, we've worked with the firefighter community to have them inform us as to the best methodology, surveys, all of the ways that we interact with the community. So they have been an integral part in every study that we've done. So in this study in particular, we looked at behaviors related to the retirement of turnout gear, the storage of turnout gear, and the proper cleaning of turnout gear. Now, turnout gear in firefighters is everything from the helmet to the boots. So if the gear is old, if it's older than 10 years old, there's going to be increased exposure. So in this study, we use key informant interviews, focus groups, and survey items to look at their practices related to turnout gear. What we found were that the primary concerns among firefighters were exposures leading to cancer risk. We also learned that by enhancing community partnerships, we could have win-win situations, both for the research team and the firefighter community. And we learned that the greatest barriers related to behaviors around turnout gear was one, the cost. So a set of turnout gear costs about $4,000. This is a huge cost for a volunteer firefighter and the department. So barriers related to cost for retirement, and then also for cleaning the gear, extractors that are extremely expensive that volunteer fire organizations cannot afford. So cost and resources continues to be a barrier among those volunteers. So what we have done is we have tried to educate firefighters about alternative ways to clean their gear, how to properly store it so they're not increasing exposure both to themselves and their families. The second pillar of the study looked at psychological and behavioral health. Advance the slide on this. For the psychological component, we conducted a study looking at burnout among the fire service. So again, with the majority being volunteer firefighters, they're performing multiple jobs. So we know that burnout is very common among the fire service. So in this study, what we did was we interviewed firefighters and we asked them two basic questions. It was a qualitative study. We asked them, what are the major factors that contribute to occupational burnout? And what are the most protective factors to your well-being? And the themes that we saw through these interviews were that burnout was consistent among time constraints, compensation, because many were having to work multiple jobs in order to make ends meet, and trauma they experienced, because many volunteers don't have the training to deal with the trauma that they experience. Common themes related to well-being were peer support, spiritual practices, and work-life balance. So these were the things that promoted the health of the firefighters. What we were able to do through this study is we pulled quotes from the interviews, and then we asked the firefighters to go out and take pictures of things in their community that represented the quotes. We then set it up as a gallery exhibit where other firefighters and their families could come through and interact with these pictures and quotes. And what we found is that the people who came through and actually experienced the gallery had a greater sense of community and well-being, and they expressed that this made them feel better because it helped them see that they weren't the only ones going through these things. As a follow-up to this study, what we are doing is we're partnering with the Hopkinsville Christian County Fire Service. They have a peer support program. So over the last year, we have been working with them to help them develop goals and objectives for their program. And we're seeking funding now to help evaluate that program to make it evidence-based so that we can disseminate it to other stations in Kentucky so that they can have, again, that peer support that promotes the well-being of the firefighters. I know that I'm getting close on my time, but for the organizational supports and policies, we actually did a heat stress audit. So looking at policies that were in place across Kentucky, what we found through this study was that very few stations had policies in place. So we are helping a graduate student actually develop an infographic that can educate fire stations about the importance of a heat stress policy, and also develop a template that can be shared so that it makes it easier for the fire station to put that in place that's compliant with national standards. Okay, and then the last pillar, the social and family well-being component, we were able to take part in a community day in Hancock County. Basically, this study looked at what people currently serving in the fire station knew or wanted people in the community to know. So the whole goal of this day was to help community members interact with fire and EMS so that in the event the community needed those services, they would not be as afraid to approach. So kind of tearing down that wall between the EMS and fire service. And so overwhelmingly what the fire service wanted individuals in the community to know was that they perform these jobs because of the people and they love the communities in which they're in. So we were able to take part in that day and help with the community and help the families of the firefighters and community members interact with one another. Okay. All right, so I know that's a quick rundown. We're doing many more projects. We're so excited about the work that we do with firefighters, and we feel very privileged to be able to help this group of individuals in our state that give so much to our community. Any questions for me about the work through the center? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great example of the grant program created a few years ago to encourage faculty in different silos to collaborate. The most exciting work happens at the edges of disciplines now and how they interact with one another, questions they ask. Just terrific work and terrific kind of in the first round of what we've been able to create with that investment.
Can I have one more second?
Go ahead.
One additional item, just so you know, on campus today is the First Gen Student Leadership Conference, which is the first time they've had such an event on campus. It's at the DSU. It starts at 1. It will allow students to go through workshops, networking. They'll have a dinner, all kinds of things. It's again a work in progress, as we say. The first gen is to engage first gen students so that they have a community, so that they feel like they belong. And in doing so, I think in a large number of cases is the reason we see such a high retention rate of first gen students on this campus. And that engagement comes both with faculty and staff and administrators, but it also comes between themselves. And it's the first time they will be in DSU. If you happen to be walking through DSU, I would say go visit, shake some hands, get to know our first gen students.
Thank you, Provost Fisher. I'm chair that.
Thank you. That sounds like a great event.
Yeah, that programs have grown, right? Our first gen started with 1 or 2, and now we have a whole program that's outlined over a whole year, and it really works well for first gens.
Thank you so much. We will move on now to Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee.
Thank you, Chair West. I would ask Susan Howard if she would join us, please. With permission, I'm going to jump back and forth a little bit for continuity's sake between action items and information items. But first, we will take the action item 1, the acceptance of the auditor's report and financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2025.
So I'll just take this opportunity to introduce our external auditor, Jennifer, with Forbes, and we can take change places and I'll get you started here. I'll have Bud come up here and. You want to come up, Bud? Oh, there you go. Okay, great. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Board of Regents. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I am Jennifer Williams, a partner with Forbes Mazars, the external audit firm that provides the annual audit results. And I have Cameron Whitehouse with me as well. She is a team member here that helps with the audit process. So, let's see if I can use this.
One on the side there.
There we go. Okay, perfect. All right. So, again, So the agenda for today is audit results, a few financial statement highlights, as well as our required communication to you all today, the Board of Regents letter, then any questions you might have on the audit report. So we, for the audit results, we did accomplish the audit plan and meet the reporting deadline. And so that reporting deadline to the state is October 3rd. So I really want to thank Susan and the team there. They worked really hard, very passionate about the financial statements, provide us that information so that we are able to be on site and go through that process. We did issue an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, which is what you would expect and you have received in the past. The financial statements are in a single year presentation, and this is due to the adoption of GASB 101. That is related to compensated absences. The way GASB has their guidance, you have to present it as the earliest period presented. And so in this situation, most universities and other institutions will do a single year presentation. So you adopt that standard as of July 1st, 2024. So again, a lot of accounting lingo there that we did not have any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses noted in internal controls over financial reporting. As I mentioned, there was the new standard that was required to be adopted, and management provided that information to us. One other item to note is that we provide the financial statement audit, but we also provide the compliance or single audit, as we call it, when we look at your federal awards. Due to the government, the compliance supplement has not been issued. And so we are unable to issue anyone's financial statements because of, sorry, not the financial statements, the uniform guidance part of the financial statements, because that compliance supplement dictates the procedures that we are required to follow. So that is something that we talked with the chair about, and management noted that, and that's just, we are pending the release of that. And so we have not all of the single audit requirements to this point yet. So a few financial highlights that are included in the audit report for you. So I just highlighted here net tuition. There was a slight decrease, about 2%. Again, most of the numbers from a comparable standpoint are very comparable to the prior year. Besides the new standard, there wasn't a significant change in the presentation of the financial statements. Here you'll see the net position that did change, about 69 million, increased 40%. The GASB 101, the compensated impact, was a negative 6 million. So that impact of that was the rules that are required of what you have to accrue on your financial statements for vacation and sick leave. The sick leave is the piece that was not prior recorded again, and that was proper under the standards. And then 101 looked at that and said, what is more likely than not to be used and paid? And so based on the terminology, that was what was included. So again, management had been properly recognizing the sick leave, those no changes happened in your policy. It was just a change in the GASB guidance and what was required to be reported. The state appropriations, there was an increase about 7%. So you'll see that went up from 83 million to 89 million received during the year. Here is just some highlights of the statements of net position, gives you some high level notes there for those. Again, no significant changes. You'll see the assets held in trust, about 4 million. That's primarily your change and the return on investments. Investment portfolio is still doing well. So you'll see that. The largest change is the capital assets, as you all well aware of the projects that are being completed on campus. With the field house, College of Business, I believe, are the primary ones with some construction and process. So about 74 million increase there. The deferred outflows and items related to pension and OPEB liability, that's the post-employment. You'll see fluctuations there. That is just changes in assumptions in the actuarial reports. So those are continue to decrease from the prior years. And so those are just items that are required to be reported on financial statements that are seeing a decrease currently. Here gives you some highlights of the statements of revenues and expenses. Again, the federal and state contracts, those funding has increased as well. So that was about 86 million in the current year. And then total operating revenues just saw a slight increase. And then your operating expenses had about a 6% increase. Again, a lot mainly due to inflation, not a significant change in the revenue or expenses at the university. Here are just some footnote highlights for you. Again, I talked about the GASB 101, and so that is noted. The deposits and investments, there's a little bit less footnotes in there with the shift back to limited investments held at the university. And then note 19 and 20 in the financial statements do provide information for your component units, the Student Life Foundation, as well as the College Heights Foundation. Any questions on the financial statements or items that I discussed before I go into the Board of Regents letter?
I'd like to make one comment. One of the things you'll note is it looks like there's a decrease in net tuition. But GASB 101 includes state and federal aid, which makes it look like there's a decline. When we talk about net tuition, we exclude those things as an institution, which is why it goes up. Just want to make that clear, because as we talk about gains in net tuition revenue, GASB makes it look like it goes down.
And we're reporting just like all institutions do. And there's kind of this debate amongst institutions and GASB that we would like to get this, how we report and how GASB reports align, but we haven't been successful yet. So
Yes, GASB has been very active recently. I think each board meeting I have said that there's a new GASB standard that you had to adopt, and there's going to be another one next year as well. So I'll work with the team and management on that one as well. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so this is the Board of Regents letter, our required communication to you all. So this slide just notes our responsibilities that we are required to follow during our audit process, and that we are required to follow government auditing standards. The significant accounting policies, those are described in note 1 of the audited financial statements. As I've already spoke about, there was the adoption of 101, and we noted no unusual or alternative accounting treatments in our audit process. The management judgments and accounting estimates, these are just estimates that are an integral part of your financial statements, and so we pay particular attention to those during the audit process. We did not have any issues or concerns with these items, but you can see here the list of those items that have estimates. So your depreciation on your capital assets, along with the benefit, defined benefit pension plan and the other post-employment benefit plan assumptions. Again, those are included in the actuarial reports that are provided. And then there are some items related to discount rate, contract terms in regards to leases that are required to be reported on the financial. Finally, we did have one audit adjustment that was proposed, and this was reclassification in regards to net position balances. And so we did have a reclassification between the net investment in capital assets and unrestricted. Still within the net position, there are just categories in how items need to be reported. So we had adjustment that management had agreed and reported. And then we had no uncorrected misstatements. So no items that we found that were what we deem immaterial that do not need to be reported. So none of those to go over with you today. So again, I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to take any other questions on the prepared materials.
Any questions of Jennifer or comments?
So last year, comparing one report to another, there was a concern, it quite rise to level concern about staffing in that area, and this year it's not there. So in your estimation, it is better.
Correct. Yes, management is looking at that with the roles that people have and have hired various positions. Again, we look at all cycles between accounts payable, payroll, and so we did not have any recommendations this year.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the auditor's report and financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2025. So, second question by Regents, second by Regent Hill. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Cameron. Now we'll
Chair
go to
Roddy?
the first information item. Go
yeah,
ahead.
before we leave the audit, I really, I know it's not a glamorous presentation by any means, but there's so much work that goes on in this, and so I really have to thank Ronaldo, Amy Hunter, our controller, which I think is here, and all the folks in the accounting office and university-wide that go into this, because it's a lot of work, and they do a tremendous job. I mean, to get a clean audit with no findings is remarkable.
as an auditor in a prior life, I can definitely agree with that, both on the accounting side and the auditor side. So, but appreciate it on both. So, the first information item we have is the 24-25 fourth quarter statement of revenues and expenditures.
Yeah, so I talked to Chair Brody and we thought that the cadence of this flowed a little better rather than talking about this towards the end of the agenda. So we want to share with the board the fourth quarter statements of revenues and expenditures. So that was a quarter that ended June 30th. So this, I think, is very telling of the work that the campus has done over the past 3 years. So you'll see that in fiscal year 22, we ended with a budget versus actual, a surplus of about 4.7 million. And then that year that we all remember that we're not too happy with was fiscal year 23, where we ended with a $11.5 million deficit. So it's really important to note the work that the campus has done over the past 3 years. To last year, we ended with approximately $4 million deficit. And then this past year, we ended basically balanced. The $29,000 surplus, we won't spend all in one place, but for overall, we ended up at a balance. And that's tremendous work because if you remember right, our budget realignment plan was a 2-year plan. So in fiscal year 25, we still had a little bit of work to do on the budget. So we still had about $7 million to clear up. And in fiscal year 26, we did that. So this is tremendous work for the campus. So I want to thank the deans, the vice president, our president, the provost, everything that everyone has done to not only clean up the budget as far as getting it structurally in balance, but also basically break even work in the fiscal year 25.
And no use of carry forward to paper over a deficit. Is that correct?
That's correct. So just a little bit, I won't go into detail, a lot of detail for but on the revenue, so you'll see again an improvement of 5.2 million in our net tuition revenue, primarily due to some strategic improvements in our scholarship model. And I got to note again that what's really important about looking at net tuition revenue rather than enrollment is that you can have an increase in enrollment and it financially hurts you. So looking at net tuition revenue is looking at both your enrollment, your gross tuition, as well as your financial aid strategies. So an improvement of 5.2 million is extremely incredible work for both our enrollment team and the provost office. Second, our state appropriation was an increase of 4.5 increase in base funding, as well as a 2.2 subsidy for property insurance. So I have to thank both our president and Jennifer Smith for the work they do in Frankfurt in getting those appropriations for us. Grants and contracts, that's another good news story from the prior year. Not only was there a significant increase in Pell and CAP grants from the government, what's really, really good news for our campuses as we strive towards an R2 status, we saw a nice increase of almost 5% in our extramurally funded research grants. So great work to the provost, the deans, and our faculty on that. So on the expense side, note that our personnel turned down slightly in employee FTE and student employment headcount. Most of the employee FTE had to do with the visa that we offered early on in the year. Oh, see, bud, I need that. And so other financial assistance, again, that's that large increase in the federal Pell and state CAP grants. Okay. So that's all I have on the fourth quarter.
Any questions of Susan on the fourth quarter? If not, we'll move on to action item 2, the approval of the statement of the 25-26 first quarter statement of revenues and expenses.
Okay, so you know, we've talked a lot about getting the carry forward cleaned up out of the budget and getting it back into structural balance. And I think from doing that, you're gonna see the improvement in our financial position and what that does for us as we look into the first quarter of fiscal year 26. So you'll see just in the first quarter, we've seen an improvement of $3.5 million from the prior year. So when Ronaldo and his staff look at financial forecasting, just looking at the first quarter, and I know we don't have a lot in to do a financial forecast, but just based on the first quarter and forecasting towards the end of the year, we're looking at ending the year anywhere between $4 and $7 million to the good. So that's great news for our university. So looking at total revenues, up about close to 4 million from the prior year. That's as when you compare it to budget, because we also have made adjustments in our budget, we're basically flatlined as far as a percent to budget. Drilling down a bit again into net tuition revenue. So remember last year we saw an improvement of about $5 million. Again, this year in the first quarter, we're seeing another nice increase in net tuition revenue of about $4.5 million. Again, primarily because of adjustments to our financial aid model. Looking at the other categories, the non-tuition revenue. Again, unlike last year, our grants and contracts are trending lower this year. A lot of that is being because of the decline in Pell eligible student enrollment. Unfortunately, some of the changes, the federal legislation, we've just not been able to recruit some of those students that we did in the past. And there is, unfortunately, in the first quarter, a 9% decrease in extramurally funded research grants. Now, I will note, but may want to say something along those lines. That's not just us. That's a national trend with all the federal things that are going on right now. But do you have any?
Just that the hope is that as we move forward and we continue to talk about innovation and as a country and as a thing, as a group, we hope that they will start to, and there's discussions about refunding NIH, NSF, and those things.
Other revenue is again slightly higher. When they dissolved the research foundation, there was some money or some cash transferred into the university because of that dissolving of that foundation. On the expense side, basically flat, slight increase of 370,000, which is basically immaterial to the size of our budget. And again, as a percent of budget, basically flatline. Drilling down into the expenses, again, we're seeing a decline in wages and salaries, and that's because of the decrease in the FTE driven again by the visa. Health insurance is driving the increase in our fringe benefits. No surprise here. I think everybody across the country is seeing that. Operating expenses, again, as we saw on the revenue side, you'll see a like decline on the expense side, primarily driven by that decline in the Pell eligible students. Supplies and expense, that's down nicely over this time last year, about $1 million. Debt service, seeing an increase because of the debt that was issued to complete Chandler Hall and the Ford Fieldhouse. That's all I have on that.
Okay. Next year at this time, we'll remind you of that 4 to 7. Any questions to Susan on the first quarter?
Yeah, Ms. Susan, you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but on FY25, the fourth quarter, the one you presented just before this, student employment was slightly down as well as FTE. Do you expect that to continue to go down into 26, or do you think it will remain steady? Do you think it'll go slightly up?
It's up slightly. Yeah.
Student employment is up this year.
What do you attribute that to?
I think there's a little bit of headcount increase, but there's also an increase in the hourly rates on average. So I think to recruit additional students, we kind of had to be competitive, right, with the industry. A bit above.
Any other questions or comments?
I think I asked you this yesterday, Susan, about the Pell eligible, so the decline in Pell eligible students, is it harder to be Pell eligible? Fewer that are applying to be Pell eligible?
So if you think about the HB4, we're disallowed from using
That's what it was.
Cornelius Martin scholarship to recruit certain demographics. And so those demographic groups, both first gen and students of color, year over year down.
Any other comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept for filing the statement of revenues and expenditures for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2025 and 20.
No move.
Motion by Regent Dennison, second by Regent Spiller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're back to the information item of the 2025-26 first quarter financial statements. Susan.
So just as a reminder, we now develop quarterly financial statements, and just as a reminder, they are unaudited. So our auditors only look at the end of the year statements. So these are prepared by our accounting office, and but it gives you a little bit more information into our financial position. So not going to go into a lot on these, but these are our balance sheet highlights. We see a nice increase in our net position of around 71 million. Another increase in our unrestricted net position. A lot of people think of, accounting folks think of unrestricted net position of being more telling, and we see an increase in that of 15 million. The good news, and back to getting your budget back into structurally balanced, we're seeing an increase in our cash and cash equivalents of about 12 million. Now, some of that, for transparency, has to do with some of our restricted cash associated with some of our capital construction. Income statement highlights, excuse me. You're seeing the year over year change. So again, in comparison to the prior year, we're seeing a nice increase in net position year over year. Operating revenue is up about 6 million. Again, most of that is directly related to the increase in net tuition revenue of 4 million. Operating expenses are down by about 7 million. Some of that is timing with accounting entries from something that happened last year at this time may have not happened. So your non-operating revenues have declined about 11 million. Some of that is the decline from capital appropriations of about 9 million. And then the grants and contracts declined about 1 million.
Any questions of Susan on first quarter internal prepared statements? If not, then we're back up to action item 3, the approval of personnel actions.
So I guess it was probably about a year ago that we made some changes to these personnel actions to kind of tighten them up and not present the board with so many details on the personnel actions at the one time. The standard ones that we bring to the board. And so a lot of material that came to you. I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay. All I have.
Any questions or comments on personnel actions? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the faculty and staff personnel actions and one-time payments. Motion by Regent Dennison, second by Regent Spiller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Move to the approval of asset preservation pool and capital target.
So just a reminder to the board, we are required by the state to receive Board of Regents authority before we can draw any money down from the asset preservation pool. And so these projects, we're just asking for your approval as to whether we can actually tap into asset preservation. We still have to, there's still lots of projects in the queue. So some of them may be completed from asset preservation, maybe some from some other sources of funds, but we do have to have your approval. So that's what we're seeking today. They could come from a combination of both of the pools. We've received two pools of fund in different legislative sessions. I guess we're still waiting to see whether there'll be another pool in the upcoming legislative session. And Brian Russell is here with us, so he is the expert on this. So Brian, I'm going to turn this over to you to go through these projects.
Currently, we have about 70 projects that are using asset preservation. The largest single user of those funds is Cherry Hall. If you all have approved that, then we're of it. We have a project at the Kentucky Museum. We have basically the 1938 portion of the building, and we have a newer section. And we had a company, THP, structural engineering firm, has gone over the building, and it's far exceeded what we thought it was going to take to do the outside repairs to keep the building, protect the asset. And it's mainly the roofs are the biggest contributor, and the internal downspouts. Back in the day, they built buildings where basically the downspouts on your house. These are outboard. These are all inside the walls. Well, this is an older building. Those have deteriorated. I'm gonna call it the piping that goes out is now clogged up and can't get water out of the system. So we're getting wetness inside the building. We need to protect the plant. So our first project is they've given us a tiered list of items. So we're going from $2 million of approval that you've already given us to up to $5 million. But we're gonna just work with the $2 million that we've already allocated and we have approved. But we might need to get a little bit more as funds become available. So this is seeking authorization only, not intending to spend the full $5 million at this time. The next project is South Campus. During all of the changes that we've done on campus, we are using the South Campus facility more and more and more. Several projects out there to improve the building. Got another large section of roof, which will complete the academic side. But this is to continue to support the College of Health and Human Services and other operations that we feel may need some assistance from asset preservation funds to get it done. So this again is seeking for your authorization to spend AP funds when they're available. Next project is the renovation of IEB. IEB is one of our older buildings on campus. And we have done some work inside the building to make improvements. We've installed new elevator, we've done some floor leveling, we've made some improvements, but we basically have a downstairs, an outside area that really needs some improvements. We do have water infiltration that comes in, and as part of our due diligence to continue to improve our facilities, we're asking up to the 2.5. And as we move forward, we'll figure what we actually need to make those improvements. Again, seeking authorization only to use AP funds.
Questions of Brian or Susan? Pretty straightforward, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. If not, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the asset preservation pool capital project. Motion by
second.
Dennison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Last but not least, our internal auditor, Bruce Wyford.
Mr. Chair, Brian. Just got a standard quarterly update for you all today. There's a few more slides because it does include year-end activity, just like Susan presented for the financials. We have a recap of our activity as well. We'll start by recapping the fiscal year 25 audit plan. So you can see we had 9 projects in total. We completed 3. 3 were in progress at the end of the year at June 30th, and 3 were not started. So you might ask, how did we get to that part of the year and not complete our audit plan? The first reason I think is we were a little more ambitious than we could execute on. Part of that is this was our second audit plan since I've been here. We've been off more than we could chew. The second part is we lost between 400 and 500 hours of audit work due to personal leave that we didn't anticipate during the year. So that equates to 1 or 2 projects not getting done. So a couple of things causing these results that I'll put out there for your consideration. We're back to being full force for FY26 and look forward to moving forward with FY26 plan. Speaking of that, you'll see we've reduced the number of projects we're aiming to complete. We've got 6 on the list. We've already completed 1, the President's T&E audit for this year. If you recall, we do this audit every year. It's governed by the terms of the contract with the President that the board will look at his travel and entertainment expenses for an audit, and we do that on your behalf. I'm happy to report we had no findings again this year, and I would say most importantly, we found an environment of doing the right thing with the President and the entire team processing those transactions on his behalf. So good news from that project so far. We've got 4 projects in progress and then 1 remaining. So we're sitting good for FY26 right now. If you recall from our May meeting, when we approved the audit plan, there's a new initiative this year, the Process and System Optimization Work Group. And that's where I'm leading a group of 6 other individuals across campus and looking at systems and processes. And are there opportunities to improve them, streamline them, make things more efficient? I'm happy to report we've completed 1 project so far. We looked at computer purchasing guidelines. The idea was that individuals may be purchasing computers that have too much hardware, too much power on them, which then cost too much, and they don't need all that extra stuff in there to complete their job duties. It wasn't a big risk, so we put in a lot of extra controls, but we did make some recommendations on the ITS website of these are the specifications you should look for while you're purchasing a computer. We also went into the vendor catalogs and removed some of those extra options, so it just wasn't so easy for folks to go in and build a supercomputer when they didn't need one. We've got 2 projects in process. And we're getting our footing underneath of us as we're looking at processes and things. And I'll say to the committee and the university community, a large part of this is going to be about change management. How do you go about doing and making changes, making sure you have the right people in the room? And we're learning those lessons every day, making sure that we're including those right people. So as we figure that out, this process will get easier, will get smoother, and I look forward to seeing what we accomplished with this group this year. Sticking with fiscal year 26, where have we spent our time so far? On the left side is our actual time. Our right side is what we plan to do. So far, we're pretty consistent. The big difference is the hotline. We haven't had a lot of hotline activity through October. So our time spent there was less than expected. We used that extra time on audit projects so far. As this was our 3rd audit plan that we've put together, I'm expecting to see our plan time and our actual time be closer as we're getting better at estimating where we're going to be spending time. This next slide is about follow-up. So after we issue an audit report, that includes recommendations and action items for management that they're doing. And I tell everyone when we finish an audit, I'm sorry, that doesn't mean we're done. We're going to come back 3 months from now and continue coming back every quarter just to check on your action items. And the internal audit standards say we need to make sure that either the risk is mitigated or that management accept the risk that you have identified in the audit report. So right now we have 8 open audit items. And the key thing that you all should pay attention to is on the right side of the screen, is how long they've been sitting out and open and how long management is working. All of those are outstanding less than 90 days. I don't have any concerns to bring to you at this time. As we continue to work through the plan this year and we finish more projects and issue more reports, the number of open items will go up. As management implements them, they will go down. Looking at the hotline, we'll recap fiscal year 25 first. We had 10 reports come in. We completed 8 of those during the year, and 2 were in progress as of June 30th of this year. For comparison's sake, in fiscal year 24, we also had 10 reports, so the hotline activities remained fairly consistent in those 2 fiscal years. Moving on to fiscal year 26, we've gotten 2 reports so far this year. You add those to the 2 we carried over from last year. So we've closed 3 of those, and we have 1 that's right now. There's no risk related to that hotline report that I think the board needs to be aware of at this time. If that changes, we'll let you know. A reminder that the university community that's here or watching online, if you see something, say something, you can reach out to me directly or to the ethics hotline, which is 100% anonymous. In our recent meetings, we've been talking about the internal audit professional standards and how they were updated in January of 2025. And we've talked about Principle 6 and Principle 7 up here about the responsibilities of the board. And we've got 1 principle left, and I want to touch on that with you all today, and that's the overseen by the board. Principle 8.1 talks about board interactions, and that's just making sure from the internal audit standards that I'm communicating with you all. We accomplish that in a few ways. Number 1 are these quarterly updates. We have this formal method of communication. In addition to that, I'm communicating offline with Chair Brody in between if something pops up in between meetings. So I feel like we're sitting in a good spot there. Principle 8.2 talks about resources. You, the Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee, are responsible for ensuring we have the proper resources to do our work, complete our mission in front of us. I would like to thank you all. That has been a priority. You are constantly asking me, do we have everything we need? Thank you for asking. I feel like we're properly resourced for what we're doing, and you can see the activities that we're doing with those resources. Principle 8.3 is overseeing the quality of our work. So how do we do that? Again, it's these meetings. We're talking about the fiscal year 25 audit plan. What projects have we done? What projects are in process? We're going to talk a little bit about consultations. How many of those have we done? Committee work that we've done. I try to provide you the information you need during these meetings to help assess the quality that we're doing, and so you can measure how effective and how efficient we're being. Finally, Principle 8.4, the external quality assessment. That's the external review we did last summer. The standards say that the audit committee needs to be involved, and we included Chair Brody in that process, made sure that our plan of what we were going to do was aligned with his expectations. So I think we've checked the box on all 4 of these requirements in principle number 8. And that wraps up, from the internal audit standards perspective, the responsibilities of the board. If you all have questions or want to dive deeper into those, there's a whole lot more technical reading that's in there than just 2 PowerPoint slides. And I'm happy to talk internal audit sometime if you would so choose. We just talked about the external review, quality assessment review. I want to provide you an update, be transparent with that. This slide looks like it just did in May. We have not done any work since May on implementing the action plans from that review. We've been focused on completing the audit projects and that type of work. We have a goal for FY26 that all of these items be completed and implemented. So we'll continue to update you all about those in future meetings. What else are we doing? The internal audit standards require that I confirm 2 things to the audit committee every year. Number 1 is that we are independent through the organization. And that means that we are reporting directly to you, the audit committee, with a dotted line to the president. That's best practice. And number 2 is that we conform with the professional standards. Again, I can say that because of the external review we did last summer. It's perfectly fine that we are working on those action items, and we're going to complete those this year. And then as a third point, I will call out, when we finish our action items for that external review, we're gonna do a gap assessment with the new internal audit standards and make sure we're conforming with all of those that are new, that have changed, that we're hitting those highlights as well. Consultations, we completed 49 of those last year. That's where someone from the university reached out to us, asked us a question, wanted to get our opinion on something. We didn't hit our goal. Our goal was 50. So we came up one short. And we're gonna hit our goal next year, still set at 50. So far, we've got 14 that we're on track for that goal. Policy review, just as an update, one of the advisory services that we've provided is we led a group of folks that looked at our employee relocation policy. So imagine you're hiring a new employee, they need to move to the area. You want to help offset some of their moving expenses or house hunting expenses. We looked at this policy and we did two things. We gave departments and the new employees more flexibility in how we support that, how we provide those funds. We provide an allowance or reimbursement. And second, we streamline the administrative procedures on the back end, but how much paper we're pushing around back and forth to make those payments happen. I think it was a very collaborative effort and wanted to call that out for the committee today. Last slide, professional development. It's very important in the internal audit standards. It's very important to me that our office stay up to date with what's happening in our industry. The first bullet point, we attend a meeting every year at the University of Kentucky with the other internal audit teams from the state that allows us to see the risks that they're seeing, how they're handling them, how they're interacting with their stakeholders at their universities. A very helpful day for sure. Second, we attended the National Conference for the Association of College and University Auditors. Again, another conference where we get most of our professional development tailored exactly to what we do every day. There we presented a presentation called Leadership Good to Great. If you've read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, we took his concepts and illustrated them using the history of the Dallas Cowboys to make it a little bit more fun for those in attendance. If that sounds appealing to you all, I invite you all to Professional Development Day where we'll be doing the presentation again. Finally, I've got a list of committees that we are participating in on campus. Again, that's part of the advisory service role that we provide to provide feedback as committees are doing their work. I know that was a lot, trying to get through it quick. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
Go back one slide.
Yep.
From your perspective, as a representative of the board, give us your description of the RAMP Budget Model Steering Committee and what you're seeing there and your participation.
Sure. So I believe we had our third meeting yesterday, and we've got some recommendations from Huron who came into initial review, and we're looking at those recommendations to prioritize which ones we want to work on at our next. So far, I think that committee is doing what it's supposed to be doing, looking at the RAMP budget model and steering it where it needs to go, looking at what improvements we can make to the model, where the model's working well, and that's what we do.
I'd just say for the record, I'd like to state too that I meet at least quarterly in person with Bruce. And as part of the evaluation process, we talked about the number of audits that happened or didn't happen in 25 and are going to happen in 26. And I am totally comfortable with that situation. Are there any other questions, Bruce?
Just another one. So we talked about, as you attest to the independence, as you, and the number of consultations speaks to this, but as you go out to campus and you ask for information, how does campus receive you? Various offices, are they receptive to you coming in? Are they compliant? Understand your role?
They do. I would say I've got a great working relationship with every area on campus. I've not encountered any hurdles from WKU employees. They've been very open and forthcoming. I'd say we have very frank conversations. We're not afraid to ask a question of why certain things happen, to help get that understanding. And I think that's what, when we're working with folks around campus, they really value that. that we're trying to understand why and how something works before we come in and just talk about what a best practice might look like. So far, everyone on campus has been great to work with and open and helping us find the information that we need to find to do our work.
Bruce, thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Madam Chair, that concludes finance, budget, and audit.
Okay, thank you very much. We are gonna take a break now and we will reconvene, in about 10 minutes.
It's my apple.
We invited by the party. Thanks for allowing me that.
Hey, we are back in session for our committee meeting and our next is student affairs, Regent Dennison.
As always, I can guarantee that this is the best fun meeting. Always the best part. This is why we're here, and I'm so excited for Dr. Sales to give us some presentation.
All right, thank you so much, Regent Dennison, and good morning to everyone. As you all know, we have some amazing students here at Western Kentucky University, and we also have some amazing faculty, staff, and departments that provide the support services that they need to our students in order to be successful. So I have some of my colleagues here today, and I'm going to ask, first of all, if she would start, and you all already have handouts, or you should have handouts, reference to the presentation today.
Thank you, Dr. Sales. Good morning, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Anna Demir, and I'm the Executive Director in the Office of Institutional Equity and the Title IX Coordinator here at WKU. For those of you who are not familiar with our office, I do want to take just a moment to talk about the Office of Institutional Equity. So the Office of Institutional Equity, or OIE, what we like to call it, was created about 3 years ago with the intention of serving as a one-stop shop for all issues, concerns, matters related to discrimination and harassment. So our office has compliance oversight related to Title VI, Title VII, Title IX, ADA, and all other state and federal laws dealing with discrimination and harassment. So you're probably wondering, well, how does that really relate to student experience, to student success, and the student support programs, which we're here to talk about today? And it relates in a very significant way. These student support programs can function and do what they do without our office ensuring that every student on our campus belongs and has access to what they need to be successful. I think sometimes compliance gets a bad reputation, right? We're a compliance office, and so I understand that. But compliance and student success, in my opinion, goes hand in hand, because I think somebody else mentioned, I think Bruce mentioned something earlier about WKU doing the right thing. And that's really what's most important. When we do the right thing, not only are we complying with all of these laws that we're supposed to comply with, obviously, but we're also supporting our students. We're empowering them to really reach their full potential and to make sure that they're able to succeed on the Hill. So it doesn't matter who they are, what their background is, where they come from. We want to make sure that everyone has an equitable opportunity to belong, to feel value, and to be connected. And so with that in mind, I do want to talk about SARC as well, which some of you probably are aware what SARC stands for. SARC is the Student Accessibility Resource Center, which is the office that handles all of the student disability requests and accommodations, also is in charge of accessibility concerns and issues, and also really makes sure that these students with disabilities are connected to the right programs, have all of the right tools necessary to succeed. And so within the last year or so, SARC has transitioned within our office now, Office of Institutional Equity. And so that's why Dr. Sales has kindly asked me to speak here with you and answer any questions that you all might have about OIE or SARC. But I do want to note that SARC really lays the foundation for a lot of these student support programs. And so SARC, obviously, when we think about SARC, we think about the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. So everything we do within SARC, we have to keep that in mind. And what does the ADA mean? ADA requirements are that WKU has to provide reasonable accommodations to all students with a documented disability. And so that's really where it starts, because we want to make sure that these students with a documented disability have an equitable opportunity to succeed, to go to their classes, to learn, and to be successful on the Hill. So it starts with those academic accommodations, but then also SARC has the opportunity to connect those students with some of these other programs, which you will hear about today, and you will hear some success stories as well, which are wonderful, I think. I have created, well, I didn't create the handout. Scott, our lovely graphic designer, he's excellent. He created the handout, but you should have in front of you a handout that really summarizes all of these different programs and units, because sometimes it's confusing to me as well how they all intersect, how they differ, what their purpose is. But you will see OIE, SARC, TRIO, SAVVY, and CAP, and how really all of that relates to, one, our compliance efforts, but also WKU's mission, goals, and values of belonging. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want all of our students to feel, is that they belong in the classroom and on the Hill. I do want to know about SARC. SARC does an excellent job. We have our director, Dr. Peggy Crow, and the team. They do an excellent job in making sure that these students have what they need. And a lot of times when people talk about reasonable accommodations, sometimes it's difficult to know what that means. I do want you all to know that it's a very effective process, and it's based on a case-by-case basis, really an individualized assessment to determine what works the best for our student. Each student is different, their needs are different, but also the classes they are taking are different. The fields that they are taking are different. And so it's an individualized assessment to determine what makes the most sense for that particular student in their given field. We don't want to ever compromise academic integrity. I know that was also talked about earlier with regard to the AI conversation. So also with regard to these accommodations, we don't want to compromise academic integrity, because we don't want to substantially change courses, objectives, but we do have to also support our students within that framework. And so if you all ever have any questions about Office of Institutional Equity or SARC, what the purposes are and how we operate, I would welcome any questions here today. Or if y'all ever want to talk about this further at another point, I welcome any questions, thoughts, proposals, anything you all may have. So thank you all so much for your time. I think the other presentations are going to be a lot more interesting than mine, because we'll hear directly from some students. But thank you all so much for letting me speak to you all today.
So before you step away,
Yes.
since you're talking about SARC, and before we go into
Yes.
other areas, do you have data that shows how many SARC accommodations we are making, how many students we're accommodating, and how that's trended over time?
Sure. Yeah, currently right now we have about 1,900 students who are registered, and about 92% matriculate to the next semester. And so I think over the years, I can't give you an exact amount, but I do think there has been an increased trend for various reasons. But we have seen an increase.
I think Dr. Dennis and I were talking about various reasons and what we see with the students today. So what is the institutional risk that we have if we're not doing those accommodations, if we're not able to meet that?
What is the institutional risk if we're not meeting accommodations?
Yes.
Well, it is definitely an institutional risk, because then we are at risk of potentially violating the ADA, and Ms. Anderson probably knows about that more than any of us here, but it is a risk. But our office really manages that risk, and I don't want to get too compliance language, but our goal is to ensure, one, that the student is supported, but we also ensure that faculty, for example, in these decisions have a voice, right? Because sometimes there's a perception with accommodations that, and I don't mean this in a negative way at all, but sometimes there's a perception that if a student asks for something, they're automatically going to get it. Well, that's not what the ADA says, and that's not what the ADA mandates. But the ADA says that they have to be provided reasonable accommodations depending on their documented disability. And a lot of times when it comes to classrooms, you being a faculty, I'm sure you understand some of the concerns and challenges and so forth, but it's really a conversation as to figuring out, okay, is this actually going to work? Because if an accommodation substantially alters the course and objectives of a class, then it's not a reasonable accommodation. So it doesn't necessarily have to be granted, if that makes sense. So we really balance all of those different factors to determine what is best. And again, it goes back to figuring out what is right. What is right for the student, what is right for the faculty member, and really at the end of the day, it's what's best and right for WKU as a whole.
Absolutely, incredibly important office. And I think, when I first got on the board, I remember telling a story with the retreats about helping a student find that office. And they got their accommodation letter, but after they learned what they could do, they never used it. They just knew they had that backup, and then they came back a couple of years later, they started their career crying in my office over grades and some classes, but they graduated. And so, as you said, that inclusiveness of what we have here, I have gone down to the office multiple times this semester. I tend to deliver the test myself, and I'm quite frankly a little concerned about getting staffing there because of the 1,900 students and how incredibly and the risk that we have, and just making sure that we are, because they have to interact with so many faculty on campus. So that's all. Just it is an important area. So we're able to meet the needs of our students.
Thank you, Regents.
Two quick comments.
Yes.
I love this. Your graduation rate is 61.8%. National average is 20 to 40%. Somebody is really doing a great job.
Yeah, I can't take the credit for that. That is actually my colleague, and I think you're referring to the Kelly Autism Program.
Yes.
Yes, so they are going to speak here in a little bit. Do you want to segue to that right now, or?
Yeah.
Could I make one
Yeah.
comment before we go? Anna mentioned the creation of this the new office that reports to the provost. That was a strategic and intentional decision to separate out the compliance function from the general counsel's office. And there was a perceptual risk for us that sometimes, because it was in the general counsel's office, someone who came to general counsel and said, I have an issue with harassment or discrimination, the potential perception was that, well, the general counsel's office is going to mitigate legal exposure through that. Andrew used to sit in this seat. Nothing could be farther from the truth, but sometimes it was a perception used. And so what we did is we split the function off out of the president and general counsel's office, moved into the provost's office, so that when folks come, they don't feel like there's any oversight from general counsel that has the legal exposure to the university front of mind. So that's why we created the office.
Thank you, President.
My second comment is I have a great nephew who has been and continues to be a beneficiary of the autism program here at Western, and I'm just big on that.
That
It's
is
a great
wonderful.
program.
That is wonderful.
Great.
Yes, that is all to the work of our colleagues at the Kelly Autism Program. So, does anybody else have any questions about OIE or SARC? I do. Yes.
I could ask questions all day, but I mean, I do a lot of forms for children with attention deficit disorder or special needs. I mean, is that where that's going to come in here, office? I mean, do you all get that too?
Yes, so that's SARC. So OIE and SARC is separate, but SARC is under OIE now. So the way that works is a student has to self-disclose their disability. We don't know if a student has a disability, and we obviously can't assume somebody has a disability for different reasons. So they have to self-disclose their disability, and then they will have to register with the Student Accessibility Resource Center, SARC. And there's a process that is in place where they actually have to submit some medical documentation. So it could be medical documentation from their primary care physician, maybe a psychiatrist, wherever it is that they're seeing, that documents their disability and shows us a history of what their disability is, what their needs are, what their treatment might have been. And so that will get that process moving. And then after the staff processes that, they will issue what we call FNL, faculty notification letters, and then those will go out to the faculty that sort of outline what those specific accommodations are.
Do you get any high school records on the entering freshmen, IEPs and that kind of stuff? Does that transfer?
That is a great question. And Dr. Crow, Peggy Crow, has helped me understand a lot of that myself since I've been over this department now. But yes, there are a lot of records that come in from high school. However, one of the challenges that WKU might face is that just because a student had a certain accommodation or a certain plan in high school doesn't automatically mean it's going to transfer to college and higher education, because we're looking at different laws. They're looking at different compliance efforts, but also we might have a little bit of different goals and expectations out of our college students that we didn't have for a high school student. So yes, we do get those records, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're outcome determinative, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's a great question. And one thing I do want to note about our offices, I always tell everyone, whoever has heard me speak before, I apologize, I'm kind of a broken record, but I always make sure that our processes are fair and equitable, because sometimes I get asked the question, well, do you all advocate for the faculty? Do you advocate for students? Of course we advocate for everyone, but one of the first things we advocate for is a fair and equitable process, because at the end of the day, that ensures that all of us are able to belong. Obviously, we're here to talk about students, but all of us should be able to belong on campus, faculty, staff, students, visitors, guests, whoever it may be. So that's really the goal of all of this. Well, thank you all so much for your questions. Again, if you'll ever want to talk about any of this further, I would be happy to, but I will turn it over to my colleagues who do the real work, the real impactful work. So thank you all so much.
All right, Regent Milliken, it's wonderful to hear that you have utilized our services. I'm Christina Knoll, and I'm at the Clinical Education Complex, which houses the Kelly Autism Program. We serve about 70 autistic college students. They are fully enrolled as WKU students. So everyone's moving away from it. They're fully enrolled as WKU students, and they were selected to be a part of our program through a rigorous application process. The program carries with it a $5,000 program fee. About 90% of our participants have that fee paid for by the Office of Voc Rehab, and then a few have private pay. And so Caroline is going to tell us more about the components of the program.
So, my name is Caroline Hudson, and I'm the director of the Kelly Autism Program. And our college program is built on these pillars of support, all designed to promote student success. And these pillars include weekly advising meetings to work on executive function skills, study table and tutoring sessions, social and connection opportunities, mentoring, the opportunity for a private dorm room space, and then mental health support.
Hi, my name is Peyton Collins. I am the Director of Mental Health Services with the Kelly Autism Program. One unique aspect, as Caroline mentioned, of our program is that all college-aged participants have access to mental health counseling. It's included in the $5,000 fee that Dr. Knoll mentioned. Overall, the goal of the program is to help students in their personal and academic goals to help them grow. At this point, I'm excited to honor and highlight two of our students who are with us today. We have Shay Ryan Kessler, who is a graduate student here at WKU, and we have Mr. Alex Bentley, who is a senior undergraduate student here at WKU. The Kelly Autism Program also serves as a student training facility. The students have, as our previous executive director referred to it, it's the treasure trove of learning for our graduate students and our student workers. So with us today, we have Ms. Reagan, who is a graduate student, I believe. Yeah.
And all of these programs and supports go together to, as Regent Milligan pointed out, get us to a graduation rate which is much higher than the national average. So our graduation rate is around 61.8%, and the national graduation rate for autistic college students is about 25 to 40%. If you all have questions, our students would love to chat with you.
I'd love for each of the students to talk, tell us what they've done here, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Majors.
Shay, would you like to go to your graduate program?
So I graduated last semester with psychology from the Kelly Autism Program, and this is my first semester of grad school. And so I used to go to get their services every day from Monday through Friday. Now I go on Fridays because grad school is a bit different than undergrad. And so I take services from Peyton, he's my counselor. They now have a second counselor, who is also an advisor. So if you are her, client, for counseling, you cannot be her advisee, but if you are her advisee, you cannot see her for counseling. That is the
Professional.
yeah. I understand that, a $5,000 fee is incredibly expensive, but the vocational rehabilitation center will often take that fee and pay for it, like they pay for mine. And they can also pay for books as well, and will take your family income into consideration and might cover some of tuition.
Shay and I just had the opportunity to present undergraduate research at a conference in Louisville, and you did a great job of just speaking briefly about how CAP has helped you.
Yeah.
Would you all be interested in hearing a little bit about that? Yeah.
Please.
Well, so, well, I don't have my bullet points that
And that,
but, they provide private dorms, for the price of, the, regular dorms. So like, a lot of times you have to pay an extra fee in order to not have a roommate because roommates suck. But they don't make you pay that extra fee. So that's nice. And I was being in my first year, and they were able to get me out of that dorm and into a new dorm. So that was nice. The tutoring, you don't, necessarily have to have it, but it's like there if you need it. So when you go to study tables, it's like a nice studious area and environment for you to focus on your assignments. And if you need help, you can ask for it. So like, checking to make sure that your papers are grammatically correct, asking for assistance for math if you struggle with math, making sure your citations are correct. Just any area that you're struggling, if you're not processing an assignment that you're supposed to be doing correctly, then a tutor can help you understand what you're supposed to be doing. I've had classmates get stressed out about assignments, like we had to interview 10 people. Well, there are 10 people at the CAP, so I can go and ask people things. My apartment, I got an apartment. They decided to give my room away for some reason, and they wanted to put me in a dorm, and they made sure that I wasn't put in a dorm and that I kept my apartment. So that was nice.
And I can step in too for a second. So another thing that Shay did last summer is she did one of our summer internships, which was one of our new initiatives. And she worked all summer, and they offered her the job. So she is able to continue working now as a graduate
Oh
student.
yes, that's my boss right there.
Excellent. And then Alex, would you like to have an opportunity to introduce yourself?
So I'm Alex. I am a senior at Western, of course, studying biochemistry and med lab science with a certificate in data analysis. Two of my bosses are here, one of which is I do research under Dr. Knoll, and then my other boss, V.D. Brown. So funny turnout. But I'm also a student as CAP as well. But part of what I also do while I'm there, in addition to all those other student responsibilities, is I am a coordinator of the tutor program. So I basically help ensure that all of our students are currently getting the academic assistance that they may need in any of their subject areas, whether that be math, science, English, anything on campus. Ensuring the tutors are providing said services, the students are actually getting the help that they need, and helping to ensure that they can pass their classes and get the needed support. CAP has just been great for me the entire time I'm here. I started out as a freshman in 2022. Yeah, a long time ago. And it's been great. They've been helping me with exams. I've been one of the kids that have been needed tutoring before on quite a few chemistry classes. But it's been a great success. They do a bunch of different social events, which is where they come out and you come and just do whatever the event is that day. We do stuff from yoga to video game nights to reading nights to just taking a walk somewhere on campus or off campus, to restaurant nights to game nights at DSU. And we've even started partnering with some of the other clubs and organizations on campus. One of which is one of the ones that I founded, but that's a whole other thing. Making sure that students have both involvement on campus and off of campus, so that they're making not just friends here, but they also have the support that they could need to get through the program, and ensuring that the program is fun and college is a good experience for them. In terms of academic assistance, they do study tables, which are about 9 to 12 hours a week. They'll go before and after class, built entirely around their class schedule and or work or internships that they might have, because we want them to get that needed success while they're here on campus, but also get the ones that are off campus as well, to build that career, so that whenever you get done with your experience at Western, you don't have just that piece of paper, you have the skills and the internships to be successful post-graduation, which is one of the big initiatives that's also part of the program, building the career, building the success, partially, which I think is why we do so well, is also supported by our summer internship program. During the summer, I did research for Dr. Knoll, part of which was all kinds of different data analysis.
A grant.
Right, a grant, yeah.
And, actually, Alex is the one who made the handout for us. So even though you've heard all those science, medical areas that he studies in, he also did this for us just on a short notice. Do you all have any additional questions?
So the best way to get a child enrolled in this program?
Yeah. So you can tell somebody to go to our website and they would fill out an application packet, and then typically we'll kind of bring them in to do a tour of the program, and then we'll bring them in and do a more formal interview. And then we will let them know if they are accepted into the program or not. If they're not, of course, they still will maintain the services of TRIO and SARC. So WKU has lots of support. The cap is just for about 70 students.
How much outreach do you do? Do the local schools know a lot about this program, or?
Caroline, do you want to speak to that? Because you've started.
Right, we certainly, hope so. We just sent out information to all of our school counselors in this region to make certain that they knew, because sometimes our college students may not be served by an individualized education plan in the public schools. So we wanted to make certain that our local counselors were aware that WKU can be a really great option for a lot of students in your district. And we are already seeing an uptick in interest calls and interview packets that have been sent out since that letter campaign that we just also, promoted. And we're also trying to be a real goal, be much more visible on campus of, we just did a presentation for housing, and then we've been invited to do something additional for housing in January. So we also want to be deeply connected not only to our South Central Kentucky community, but also our campus community as well, about understanding more about the supports needed to make autistic students successful right here at WKU.
Thank you guys so much. We just have a couple more, just presentations if you guys want to come up.
I'm Raina Flemons, and I'm here today to share with you about the WKU Savvy program. In 2006, my son Caden was born, and I received a towel from my colleagues at WKU that said Future Hilltopper. And that stung just a little bit because Caden was born with Down syndrome and autism. I didn't really know if he would have a place at WKU. So after I returned from maternity leave, I contacted Dr. David Coffey, who was running SARC at that time. And I guess he realized that I was a parent going through a lot. And I just said, Dr. Coffey, what's going to happen to Caden when he goes to WKU? I want him to go to WKU. My husband and I had the Hilltopper experience, and I want him to have that Hilltopper experience as well. And he said, Raina, by the time that Caden gets ready to go to WKU, there will be a program for him. He must have had a crystal ball, because 2 years short of his 18th birthday, Dr. Knoll reached out to me and asked if I would help her co-found the WKU Savvy program. And we did with a team. The Savvy program stands for Social, Academic, and Vocational Training. And it is a federally approved comprehensive transition to post-secondary education program that allows our students who have intellectual disabilities to tap into federal resources through Pell Grants and other scholarships so that they can attend a program in a higher education setting. We currently have 8 students who participate in our program, and that seems like a really low number, and it is, because of the amount of support that we offer the students who participate in our program. This is a success story for WKU in numerous ways. First, it shows how people can reach out among the different silos that we have at the university and use their intellectual capital to create programs that are innovative and serve a need within a community. Second, it aligns perfectly with our strategic plan because we actually lived out the vision of being a regional lighthouse. We looked out into the community and we saw a need through work demand, skills that were needed, and we filled that gap. It also provided opportunities for individuals like my friend here, Claire Lanham, who's in our Savvy program, to become a Hilltopper, and she'll soon be an alum of the Savvy program. Claire, do you have something to tell the board?
So for the Savvy program is to go like events or do classes with Michael Matney, and he's a part of our program as well.
Michael Matney is our director for the Savvy program. He provides instruction for our Savvy students to help them become college students and have that college experience while they're here. And he also ensures that their schedules are accurate and that they get to their classes, right? Anything else? Okay, any questions? So I'm sorry.
No, what, do you limit the program to 7 or just so that they get?
We try to limit the program to about 5 per year so that we can provide the services that we need to provide. But we really have no definite limits. We'll always take students. They pay full tuition, plus they pay a program fee on top of that so that we can fund our director position and also provide additional services for them.
I love like the social and academic like that. That seems obvious, but like the employment preparation, I think that's awesome. Can you speak a little bit about kind of what that looks like for your students?
Sure. We are working right now to align our program with the Kentucky Graduate Profile, which aligns with the 10 essential skills that we want our graduates to have by the time they leave WKU. We've taken that mandate from the Council on Post-Secondary Education and we're applying it to our Savvy program and ensuring that our students have skills. We do a lot of person-centered planning. That means that when students come to us, we actually take those IEPs that were asked about earlier. We align those with the students' curriculum along with their vocational interests that they expressed in high school. We build personalized plans for them. If we identify that there are certain social needs that they have or skills that they need to develop, we will align their courses to work on those skills. One of the requirements of a CTP is that you take 50% of your requirements for the Savvy program alongside traditional college students. So our students are actually enrolled in classes along with the other WKU students for their receiving that college experience and the academic knowledge. But that plan is built based on their career interest and their individualized needs.
Awesome.
Other questions? Yes.
So tuition is the same,
Yes.
but then there's an extra fee.
Yes.
And then, I'm assuming they don't live on campus, they are transported by parents?
We have transport we have a centralized drop-off and pickup location where our students meet on the days they have classes and where they're picked up on those days. We do not have housing at this time. That is something we'll expand on in the future.
I'd like to ask the young lady what she likes the best about Western.
So I'm in a sorority for Western Kentucky University. I'm in a freshman year of college.
and I'm in the Alpha Gamma Delta sorority.
Definitely the social part. Traditional college students. Any other questions?
Wonderful, and again, I didn't know if this is great, you know, this would be wonderful if we could serve more than next year. There's tons of kids that could,
Absolutely. And you asked the question earlier about if people know about it. Our program director will actually go to a student's transition meeting in high school to help prepare them for the transition to college and work that into their SOP plan. So the goals they are working on while they are in high school will align with working on the social and academic part of a college experience. Anything else? Thank you.
Well, I think this is beautiful program. I'm glad it exists.
Our trio program, student support services, serving our students with disabilities.
All right, good morning, everyone. I promise I will be brief. I want to make sure that our program gets a highlight, but also I want to respect your time as well. So my name is Jimmy Martin. I'm the project director for Student Support Services Disabilities, which is one of our 8 trio programs here at WKU. WKU actually sits in a really unique position to have 2 different SSS programs on campus. We have our traditional SSS program that's been in Jones-Jagger Hall since the 1980s. Thank you. And then our office joined campus back in 2020. Nothing was happening in 2020, right? Totally chill year, right? During that first grant cycle, our office was able to graduate 89 students who would have otherwise not been able to graduate without our program. So pretty impressive for our first 5 years. Right now, we're in the middle of our second grant cycle. This is year 1 of 5. Our next grant cycle will expire in 2030. SSSD and other TRIO programs, of course, are federally funded from the Department of Education. We're here to serve first generation, Pell Grant eligible, and then for our program specifically, students with some kind of a documented disability. We prioritize working with our students on personalized academic, financial, career, and social resources to help them be successful. A couple of other highlights that I mentioned. Currently, we are keeping students here at an 80% rate, persisting from one year to the other. And we have 77% of our students in the program who have above a 2.0 GPA. I have 2 students with me here today. I have Caitlin Eversole. Caitlin is a senior interdisciplinary studies, major emphasis in education. She's also in the JUMP program for student affairs and higher education. And I have Mr. James Stevens, who's a transfer senior, who is in sports management major and a marketing minor. And I will open the floor for them if you all would like to ask them any questions.
Can you tell us about the leadership retreat going on later today?
Yeah, so we are hosting, I believe Mr. Bud Fisher earlier said for us, we are hosting the First Generation Student Leadership Conference this afternoon. We'll be hosting it from about noon to 8:30 p.m. So if any of you guys are night owls, make sure we're gonna have some fun trivia and a little dance party going on, so come join us. But we'll also be doing it on tomorrow from about 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I think, Jimmy, did you start this idea?
I did.
Yeah.
So my office, we typically take students to, it's called the Circle of Change. It's a national first generation student leadership conference. Unfortunately, that conference is only offered twice a year in 2 places, Miami and LA. Totally cheap and realistic places to go, right? No. So over the summer, I met with April McCauley and Sierra Waller from the First Gen Initiative office. And I said, hey, can we take that type of a conference and bring it to campus? And we are doing just that starting tonight.
Yeah, and so today we will be having students from WKU, students from Sky CTC, the local community college in Bowling Green, as well as I think it's about 20 of our trio upward bound local high school seniors. So we're gonna have students from 3 different kind of areas, and they're all gonna come together, and we're gonna learn how to be. Our theme is superheroes because being first gen, your superhero identity. So our staff is gonna be wearing some superhero capes. So make sure to stop by and get a picture. That'll be really fun. But we're going to be educating our students and helping them to realize just that their first generation identity is a superpower to them. A lot of times being first generation, limited income, students with disabilities or whatever,
can be seen as kind of a disability. It can be seen as a disadvantage, anything like that. So instead, we want to turn that narrative for them and help them see that being first gen is their superpower and that they can be successful even despite the difficulties and the differences that set them back.
Question.
Thank you for transferring. Figured out that was the right thing to do.
No, I didn't know what West Kentucky offered. I didn't know what Kentucky offered. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. So I didn't know what it offered. I just knew I wanted to work in sports. And so I didn't know I was an SD program until I got an email from him. And so we meet once a month, twice a month, and I'm usually talking my butt off. He's called me the hustler 101 because I'm
This guy is a real hustler. Like, every time I throw an idea, he's like, "Oh no, I've already been doing that for like 6 months." Here's
yeah, but I'm usually my motto, like, why not me? Like, why not? I usually tell myself brick by brick because I'm usually focused on 3 aspects. I'm focused on school, career, or faithful stuff. So like I'm usually not working in class. I'm usually working, so I'm usually at the games working with my internship. I've been with the internship for 2 different departments all my time on campus because that's my one goal. Like I gotta be working while I'm here. And so I've just been working with communications, PR, stuff like that, just been learning the craft and stuff like that. But I'm just good to be here. That's just how it is.
Thank you. As first generation, I love seeing all that you're doing. So definitely what the president says, you have changed. Right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Individuals who ask me about WKU, and I do believe that we are a family and that we don't watch our students climb, but we climb with our students, and we are stronger together when we work together. Thank you.
As always, the best president.
It is the best. You are right. Thank you. All right, we are moving on to the executive committee, and Susan is going to talk about our first action item, acceptance title.
Let's see if that's better than the finance committee.
Sorry.
Someone who's not an accounting major.
So I'm gonna pull up a few slides here. Okay. Regent West, are you going to introduce the items, or would you like me to, or?
Well, yeah, I acceptance of title for properties. You want to talk about that first? Yeah.
So I have with me today, Jennifer Tugas, who is our AVP for Business Services, and she can up here and I don't know if this thing needs a new battery or what. There we go. She's been working on these transfers of these titles to WKU, so I'll let her come up and talk about these.
Good morning. Good to see everybody this morning. This is WKU has been leasing the property 2311, 2315, 2319 Nashville Road down at our South Campus for several years to fulfill the obligations of the charitable remainder annuity trust that the craft for those properties. We've been leasing them from the real estate corporation. They are currently used for storage for large equipment for WKU, as well as IGO Motors is a subleaser, and then the community is a subleaser for those properties. We've now fulfilled those leases. We've satisfied the terms of the trust and are ready to accept the titles from the real estate corporation for them. So that's the agenda item for those properties. And I believe there's a map on the next page that shows where these properties are on South Campus.
So are those just like warehouse type properties or?
They're businesses. This was the Heritage the Heritage Building, where the community farmers market is. Igo Motors, the WKU bookstore had a business there at one point.
Okay.
And it's now subleased for Igo Motors. The storage areas, in the back, and some of our large heavy equipment, for WKU is there. And then we have some storage for Airmark and, in the back of the Heritage Building. So tables and chairs, finding a spot for those.
And when we do pay out the leases, I think this is the last year, right?
Yeah, we fulfilled those, for these properties,
For this
those
year.
were
So
fulfilled this year.
there will be a little money that will free up in our budget.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but
A little, yeah.
For you motorcycle riders, this is the old Honda Hut property.
Do they have any questions? I will accept a motion to accept title. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Right, motion passes. Thank you. You get to
And we
talk
got,
about our next one.
we're doing a couple of things today.
Okay,
So,
go ahead.
the next item is the ag farm and easement on the ag farm, and this request is, coming from the Warren County Water District. And what they're needing to do is supply water line, to the new, elementary school that's being built at the Dillard Elementary School. The water line would move pretty much in parallel with our fence line. That's along, if we go to the next slide, you can see where the path would be. So it has minimal impact, to the ag farm. The ag farm has been fully involved in this, discussion. It's actually, it's very close to and within, in some cases, the existing easement for power that runs along that same area. So the request is, for an easement, permanent easement to support water line, that supports the Warren County, elementary school.
Questions? Okay, do I have a motion to authorize the grant of the easement? Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion granted.
Yeah, thank you. And then finally, this one, oddly enough, within today's meeting is gonna close a little loop for a moment. But if we go to the next slide, we can show that, there's a nonprofit organization called Top Crops, which provides, it's kind of a vocational opportunity for, it's mostly adults or young adults, maybe with intellectual disabilities. They grow crops they lease property at the ag farm, they grow crops, and then they sell them at the Heritage Foundation, or the Heritage Building, at the community farmers market. So there's a little bit of a circular thing going on here. But what they would like to do is run power to their vegetable washing station. And in order to do that, we need to grant them an easement, from Warren Rural Electric Corporation. So that request, again, the ag farm is fully supportive of this. This improvement would stay with the property. But this is another program where, there are students in various programs that engage with Top Crops, and it's kind of a fun little program. And they grow some great red spinach if you like.
Any questions? Anything? I have a motion to approve this. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion granted. All right, Andrea, I think I'm next. Yes, you are.
So you have before you an anti-Semitism policy for your review and approval. Joint Senate Resolution 55 was passed spring, requiring all governing boards, universities within the state to pass an anti-Semitism policy. So this doesn't really change how the university will respond to complaints involving religion, national origin, or ethnicity. Those will continue to be processed through our discrimination and harassment policy. But it does set forth some notice requirements that we will give to students, as well as a reporting requirement on behalf of the university to the Council of Post-Secondary Education. This policy will be in effect through the end of June of 20.
So is it, I didn't see the actual policy in here, is it?
Sorry, I assumed that it was. Well, let's table this and we'll
Bring back in December.
bring it back in December.
Well, would that,
It
will
will.
that be in compliance with,
It will. The policy has to be effective January 1st of 26.
okay. All right, very good.
Chair West, could I if we're getting ready to end, it feels like we are. I want to share some good news with all of you related to student success and some of our goals in the strategic plan. Some of you will remember for a long time we talked about 20,000 being our goal in terms of head count. And with the strategic plan in 2018, we shifted our focus from being big to being excellent. And we want to make sure that every student we brought here had an opportunity to be successful. Today, I'm pleased to share with you, will become official next week at the Council on Post-Secondary Education, that this fall, our first to second year retention rate reached 79.4%, the highest in the university's history, which is nearly 10 percentage points higher than when our strategic plan began. We've also had some tremendous success with our graduation rates. So we announced next week or today, I guess since I'm saying it, the highest ever graduation rate in WKU's history, 59.1%. This is an 8.4% increase since 2018. Our 4-year graduation rate obviously is above 50%, almost to 60%, which is the goal for 2028. But it surpasses that of one of Kentucky's 2 research universities, not the blue one, but the red one. We also continue to break records and outpace our peers in degree production. In 24-25, we awarded the most undergraduate degrees in WKU history, 4,688 total degrees. The number of undergraduate degrees and credentials we conferred is 33% more than the nearest comprehensive university. It is 13% more than one of Kentucky's 2 R1 institutions, the red one. So think about that. We used to talk about 20,000 being the goal, but we never graduated this many undergraduates in our history. And the reason we've done this is because instead of focusing on inputs, we've shifted our attention to outputs and the success of students, not just being big. And I'm really proud of the entire community's work to do that. So our total preliminary enrollment stands at 15,920. But again, remember, graduating more than we ever had before. Our new graduate student enrollment has increased by nearly 25% this year. As we shift our attention to becoming an R2 institution, the mix of students is going to shift as well. Our total graduate enrollment has risen by more than 8% during the last 5 years. And what does this all drive? It drives financial stability, and more importantly, what Susan was talking about, that net tuition growth. Our net tuition revenue has grown more than 15%, over $18 million since fiscal year 2023, and just an 8% increase in the past year alone. And as you heard, all of this allowed us to have the first structurally balanced budget without carry forward since 2005. So a tremendous success story for our university. Bud has handed out, or has handed out some sheets. You all have sheets in front of you. I wish the media had shown up today to cover this story. I'm sure you're going to see some story about an enrollment decline. That's not the story. The story is student success, record retention rate, record graduation rate, and number of degrees produced higher than even that red place up the road a bit. So good way to end the meeting.
Thank you. That's great news. Great news.
Yeah, I do have one thing that I think is worth noting, the passing of a former regent, Howard Gray, last week. Services are in Lexington today. There'll be a service in Glasgow tomorrow. Howard was a proud Western graduate and CEO of Gray Construction, which many of you know is an international design, build, construction firm. Howard was the key builder of. So I want to make note of that. Great friend of Western to many of us in the room.
Anything else in further business? Being none, then we are adjourned.